all the Carlton supporters, thank you for all the love.
Dave Simpson playing Glasgow. And there's a vantage bar. The ball inside 50. Control! He strikes it beautifully. He's got it.
Oh, Pom.
It's good, isn't it, that?
It's good, mate. It's good. Welcome to you, Pom. Welcome to you at home, everybody, to this Wednesday, the 4th of November. I guess life is really elevating for us Carlton fans because we're waiting for a few deals to get done. Welcome to the Blue Abroad Show. This is your daily recap, 30 minutes capped. I promise you, we're going to recap everything that happened today, everything that was said today that's relevant to us Carlton people, and we're really keen to get into it. Pom, how you going, mate?
I'm good, yeah. I'm just there been refreshing the trade tracker all day, just waiting to see SAAD, but still no SAAD yet.
We've got quite a few things to talk about today. I think yesterday, not that there wasn't as much news, but today we had Dodoro speak, we had Sauce talk about a few more things, we had another third player revealed. So we better get into it because we're going to run out of time because I've promised everyone 30 minutes. I know you want to go for longer. People have been messaging me asking me to go for longer, but I'm sorry, 30 minutes is the cap. So let's get right into it. Before we go ahead, obviously want to thank all of our members of the channel. Appreciate your support. If that's something you're interested in doing, giving back to the channel to help us grow a little quicker, feel free to hit the join button on the channel after this. And one more thing, 7:45 tonight, I've got a very special video that's going to be scheduled. So you'll have plenty of time between the end of this show and the start of that video. But let's get into it. The first item on the agenda is Luke Dunstan, another name that just popped up. Yesterday or the other day it was McCartan. Today it's Luke Dunstan. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about how Luke Dunstan came to light. And we're also going to do a live player spotlight right here, right now. So, Pom, let's start with, how did Luke Dunstan's name come about today? What happened?
Well, it was the theory was pandered around that Crouch at the start of this morning. Everyone thought Brad Crouch was going to be matched by Adelaide in a trade ensue, but left field, Adelaide didn't. Brad Crouch is now a St Kilda player. Now, Dunstan was limited for game time, played one game in 2020, and was kind of on the outer on that midfield. Now Crouch comes in, you've got more chance of finding rocking horse poo under your couch than you have of him getting a game at St Kilda. So they suggested that Carlton may be looking at him as a depth player. We have had historical success looking at these outer players as a depth player. Nunes would be a great example. So he fits the bill. Big body, decent on the inside, has flourished on the outside occasionally for him, and this year retrained as a small forward for St Kilda. So he's not one of them exciting packages, but he's definitely one of them people that, he would make the bottom five better.
We spoke today, obviously, and I was asking you, like, do we actually talk about it? Is it worth the conversation? And then you reminded me because Matthew Lloyd spoke about it this morning. He sort of brought it to light. And then you reminded me who Matthew Lloyd is related to. Obviously, Brad Lloyd being his brother. His brother, right? That's his brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. So not that Brad Lloyd would be, revealing anything, but you never know. There's a bit of a link there. So I felt like it is something to talk about. And as Hus says here, we have been linked and we have asked the question of Dunstan over the last few years. And there is this notion about we've got to get Cripper some help and all of that. So let's unpack that a little bit. Dunstan, if we were to make a move for him, what would it cost? Let's start there. What would it cost us?
I'd say it'd be a third, fourth. I mean, if you look at the way St Kilda are packaged, in the way they set up in the pre-season as well, just before his injury, he was in and out of that side. They tried him all across the forward line. It was an active thing that they were looking at doing. So for me, it's going to be a third, fourth. You look at their squad, it's not, you can see that he's definitely going to be on the outer of that St Kilda side. And that's the nature of the beast. The Ratton approach has been very good crouching. So It's a huge one, this, for us. It's going to be a cheap deal, very cheap deal.
Yeah. The other thing for me is, and I've really started to feel this over the last couple of days, because every year there's this talk about getting Cripps help. I just feel like it's there. I feel like it is there. I think Stephen Silvani, we'll get to some things that he said today. He spoke today about the list and looking within. So at the moment, let's have a look at the other inside midfielders on the list right now. We've got Setterfield, who really emerged in 2020. I would probably put Stocker next up in line. Ed Kerno's obviously there. Brodie Kemp yet to play. We think we're going to see a bit of him in 2021. And there's Matt Kennedy. So the question is, and I'm going to put it to you, Pom, and obviously I'm going to put it to everyone out there. Do we really need to go and get Luke Dunstan? Or should we give these other guys some room to develop? Now, it's a different situation if it's a Clayton Oliver, superstar A-grader. But a guy like Luke Dunstan, is he that much better than what we have already? What do you think, Pom? And for you guys at home, what do you think?
Well, I've been fairly consistent on this. For me, I have always been adamant that if we go for a midfielder, it's got to be someone who's A-list and someone that is the now, not what if only. So that means Clayton Oliver, Zach Merritt. For me, like Matty Kennedy is there as well. For me, I still think he's got a value at our club. But for me, it's obvious that Teague doesn't rate him. He's always been a second choice at Carlton since Teague's got there. I don't think Kennedy is as dynamic enough for Teague. And for me, I think that's why we haven't signed him at this moment. I think that is a case of let's see what we get in the trade period, a little bit like Josh DeLuca last year. So for me, I'm not a fan of it, but I think it has merit. He definitely makes our worst five better. But for me, it's not something that I'm going to get excited about. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. There's worse guys out there. He's not a bad player by any means. But for me, Setterfield, Stocker, Kemp, I want to see these guys get chances as well. I want to see these guys really knock the door down. And for me, Dunstan is similar to where I would hope Kemp and Stocker are next year. Next year, I hope that level is what they hit next year, because it's not a huge level, Dunstan. He's got a lot of talent, but he's never quite fulfilled it. And they are very mediocre numbers for an AFL footballer.
Yeah. Some people here talking about Jack Silvani as well. He is obviously someone who, at the end of 2019, was playing sporadically throughout the midfield. So there's another big body as well. But as you said, Pom, as we've spoken about as well, unless it's an A-grade superstar type big body, because, I mean, really, the idea is it not for Setterfield, Kemp, Stocker to really take that role over the next 3 years? I mean, you could probably say Setterfield's already locked in, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, you'd say Setterfield for me, and I saw the comment here, he's only young. I think he is a potential A-grader for me. I think Setterfield, his improvement from his first season to now to where I can see him, for me, is phenomenal. I think he's really improved 20% every year. And I think the sky is the limit for me for Setterfield. So I think Setterfield could become an A-grader in his own right. He could be elite. I think that's something that he's worked hard on his game, and it is abundantly clear he has. So for me, I love that. The one that I'm not 100% sure on is Kennedy. I just think, I know a lot of the fans love him. I love him. Kennedy, for me, huge raps on him all last season, particularly his work he does off the ball, that there is no stats. But for me, he just doesn't get the game time. Like, round 18 was a great case in point that he only played less time than everyone but Cripps, who was injured, but he had the best numbers on the ground per minute played. So it's one of them things for me, like, that's where I don't like Dunstan. I'd rather see Kemp and Stocker take that spot. I think it's up there for grabs. I think there is the third. Murphy and Ed Kerno ain't going to last forever. So if I was Kemp and Stocker, I'd be saying I want one of them spots by the end of this year.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. I think most people are in the same camp. It was just interesting that his name popped up this morning. He's a name that we really have, asked about over the last few years. And it's funny how it's sort of turned now. So we'll leave it there and see how it develops, but definitely someone that we probably should just keep an eye on and see how that develops. Speaking
Definitely
of
worse. We have recruited worse than Dunstan, trust me.
Absolutely. Absolutely we have. Speaking of Sauce, he revealed a few more things today, Pom. He was obviously on... Actually, I must say, his first interview, hated it, didn't like how he was just airing the dirty laundry. But I've actually really enjoyed listening to him speak because you just get that insight. And one thing as well for us Carlton supporters is he gets asked questions about what happened at Carlton with certain scenarios, and we get some insight. So the first thing he revealed today was about Ollie Wines. Gary and Tim asked him specifically, what happened with Ollie Wines? And it was revealed, for those of you that didn't hear it, Ollie Wines' management reached out to Sauce and just asked the question, would you entertain something for Ollie Wines? So those of you, I reckon Angelo Gravino, if you're in the audience, I reckon he was giving me that kind of spot on, mate. But it was true. So Wines' management reached out to Sauce last year. The situation was that we were already committed to Papley, getting Papley, Martin, Betts, Pitternet, and it was just a situation where it was too much of an unknown. So did you make anything of that, Pom?
Well, I mean, it was no surprise because if you remember last year, the Wines deal just came out of nowhere, didn't it? Like, we were like cruising along. Me personally, I started comfort eating because we'd lost Cornelio. Papley looked like it was on the ropes. Butler had just signed for St Kilda. And then all of a sudden, Ollie Wines was like, oh, he's coming. Yeah. And at that stage, I'd given up. So for me, it doesn't surprise me. I know that if you remember last year, I was talking about Ollie Wines' auntie was in a forum and she'd mentioned that he wanted to come. Her nephew wanted to get to the Blues anyway. And it just kind of died, didn't it? It just kind of fitted out. So, yeah, I mean, I can't see it this year, though, to be honest. I can't see it coming, but it's good to know that players of that ilk want to come to Carlton. I know he's got family connections with our club, but, yeah, it was interesting to hear on it, you know. Again, though, you know me, I don't like what-ifs and if-onlys. Like, if only me nana had a beard, she'd be me granddad. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's not a great one for me. I hate hearing it.
I mean, look, Ollie Wines had a horrible year last year. You know, obviously had the accident with his shoulder and a lot of scrutiny. I think that ship sailed. They had a great year this year, Port. They're set up for the future. So I guess that's all we'll talk about it. But I just thought it was interesting. I thought it was something that we wanted to talk about tonight. The next thing was Liam Stocker. Liam Stocker was asked, was just referred to today, and Sauce had a specific quote about him, which didn't really match up with what the club said about Stocker. So obviously, let's pack it all up. The club told us fans, the footy world, that Stocker went home for family reasons, which probably is true. We're not saying it's not true. Sauce also added to that by saying he's a quality player, but he's got some off-field things he's got to take care of. Now, obviously, we're interested because we love him. We think he brings that grit and aggression. He plays that kind of style that we really need in the midfield, particularly entering his third season now. We think that he should be ready to play full-time in the mid. What did you make of those comments?
Not a fan of it, to be honest. I think it was way too vague. Sauce is a smart man. He knows what social media, the internet world's like. And if he's got some mental health problems, which is what it was alluded to, that is a nightmare because people now are going to take that and run wild. Like, I've already had 5 different versions of events in my PMs from people speculating, is he Fev? He's on the sauce. Is he failing drugs tests? Is he overeating? Like, the panic button gets hit. So for me, it was way too vague, and it plays into a media circus now that could be anything. We've already heard these rumours that Teague doesn't like Stocker and that he's not a Teague-type player. And it's one of them that just adds a lot of conjecture and a lot of distractions for the young man. But for me personally, I look at Stocker's social media world. I look at him in the avenue of, he was told by Richmond he's not fit. He went and hired a personal trainer, worked his arse off in before the draft. So to me, that says to me the character of the human being. He's determined to do it. There's a fire in his belly. Like you said, he lived in Hong Kong, so he's obviously had to grow up. Both of us, being a young age, have lived in foreign countries. We know it's a confusing situation. It does grow you up. So for me, I hope this motivates him if I was Stocker and I'm in there round one next to Cripper, hauling arse and kicking arse, because that's who he is.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. I was really fucking annoyed at Sauce for. I understand he's being asked questions and he's on for hours every day, and there's probably going to be one or two comments here and there that he slips up. I just didn't, last week he said about, how he came on the radio because he cares about the club. Well, if you care about the club, just please make sure the information you give out is not the information that should be out there. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, reading between the lines, let's have a look at Stocker as a human. He's obviously grown up overseas. It's a very isolating experience. For those of you who are a fan of Kobe Bryant, he's spoken at length, obviously before he passed away, about, he grew up in Italy, went to school in Italy. He was the only black kid in his class, in his school. He didn't speak Italian very well. It was isolating, and it created a fire in the belly, and that dark side he talks about. So Stocker's obviously had that upbringing. He comes back to Australia. He's at a football club now. None of the boys at the football club have grown up the way he has. So there's almost that isolation again. Can he relate to people like he once did? You sort of feel like you're different. You're different because the conversations that everyone else are having are different to what you are thinking. And so I just wonder if that's something to play with. And just watching the way he plays with that aggression, I almost feel that aggression. I know where it comes from. So I've got full faith in him and his character. He's a great guy. Obviously, we've had brief exchanges. He obviously jumped on the charity stream we did early in April on the channel. He was up for that. Really down to earth guy. So I just want to see him succeed, and I back him in.
Well, I mean, I was going through his Insta today, and my wife was over my shoulder, and she informed me that it only took him 6 weeks to get a delectable set of abs, she tells me, which I didn't notice that because I don't look for things like that, but my wife did notice, and he is. If you look at him at the moment, he is in prime condition. He is looking sick. Hey there, Luke. Sorry I didn't get on chat the other day. I'm a bad guy. There you are.
Well, there's your shout out. So we'll move on from that. Was there anything else that caught your attention about? So he did also speak about the Adam Saad deal. He also spoke, and we're going to get to this, that's the next item on the agenda, but he did make it clear again his position with Carlton about how we have to give up pick 8. That's probably the good segue into the next item on the agenda, which is the Adam Saad update. So if you follow the Instagram accounts, they'll tell you that he's going to be announced in the next 1 to 2 days. I don't think it's going to be that easy, Pom. The update, Dodoro went onto Trade Radio today and a few quotes. He made a mention of that. It looks like Saad will leave. I thought that was a tick for us. Then he sort of made the case for Essendon. So obviously the classic, he's the top 3 now, best and fairest. He's the best meters gained player in the competition. He said that they want pick 8. He made it clear that that's what they're looking for. That's what they think is fair and reasonable. He also made mention that he's sure it will get done. So one way or another, it's going to get done. He also said, I think we will get a quick resolution. And then he also alluded to the fact that it could be pick 8 or it could be a future first round pick. So let's unpack a little bit. What are you seeing? What are you reading between the lines? What's happening?
I think the hold-up is literally, I think it's what he mentioned, something about the return. So that Carlton will get something into return if it's a first rounder. So I think that's the hold-up. And I think what is very clever and what I've really got out of this year is Nick Austin and Sauce, 2 different people. And they're 2 different ends of the spectrum. Because at the moment, Essendon are talking a lot about this deal. They've covered all the questions where we have just been straight on the particular. We want him and he will come across. We're not talking about specifics, semantics. We didn't deny or confirm what they asked for. I thought that's very smart because in this AFL world, one thing I've noticed from soccer, there's kind of a gentleman's code. They're kind of like a rivals, but they drink together. Everything's pally-pally. And I think that's kind of very honourable in a way. I think for me, if you held a gun to my head, I reckon what it's going to be pick 8 and whatever Fantasia or whatever pick they derive from one of these weird and wonderful deals. But for me, I think it will get done soon, and this is the reason why. Essendon have a shitload of business. If you look at everything they're linked with, they're Carlton 2018 at the moment. Like, if you're slightly unhappy, you've sneezed twice at training, you're linked with Essendon at the moment. So for me, it looks like they're super active. So I think they need this deal done more than us. I think the longer it goes, the easier it is for that PSD to come into the equation, because he's admitted he's going. 38 is the list according to Dodoro, which cancels out a few clubs for PSD picks now as well, because they've got more than that signed up. So I think that's quite interesting. The longer this goes on, the value depreciates. So I think this will get done in the next 48 hours. I reckon by Friday, we'll be chatting about this as officially done.
We'll be singing Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I'll learn a different language for once in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring it back to Sauce, because Sauce talked about this situation. Now, what's happened is Saad has nominated us early in the piece, before free agency period and trade period. Sauce came out today and spoke about how, Carlton should have thought about it. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Maybe we should have told Adam to wait, not nominate, wait till day 2 of the trade period, then nominate. So, but in the meantime, get the pick swaps done first, which I thought was a bit rich. Sauce, you probably shouldn't have picked up Mitch McGovern in the first place, mate, but hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? You probably shouldn't have gone.
Answer, considering that, like, he was the one who revealed we're going in for Papley. And look at the fallout from Papley. Papley's life was miserable because we were so adamant, and it caused Sydney to announce that contract extension, if you remember, as well. So, like, I find it a little bit weird. He's saying that you should maybe play it smart with the media, when I would say one thing I'd be critical of with Sauce, probably the most unsmartest list manager when it comes to the media in the history of the AFL.
So there's your fucking whack, Sauce. Thanks for that. Cheers, mate. But let's get back to the situation we're in right now. I'm going to ask you, Pom, and I'm going to ask everyone in the audience. It's a yes or no question. Should we just give them pick 8 for Saad, straight swap? Yes or no?
Oh. I think it needs to be done, before PSD, and I think the club have identified Saad as important. So don't like it, but yes.
Yeah, because there is a notion that you give up pick 8. Is there a possibility that pick 8 can fall to pick 9 or 10?
Yeah, it should be, because you've got Hagen number 1. Without a doubt, that kid is. Sometimes I wish we had an MGA like that Doggies one. There's a couple of other players as well. For me, that potentially will be top 10. So yeah, for me, I reckon it'll go down to 10. It'll slip down two picks at least.
So let's say it falls to like a pick 10. It's not really that bad. I don't know. I'm starting to turn personally, because I kind of just want to get them in the door. We had Williams and Saad. I want to get it done early. I don't want to be sitting here with you, Pom, last day of trade period, watching that countdown clock, and Saad still hasn't signed, and then we just miss out,
I think, honestly, I reckon by Friday it will be done. If you held a gun to my head, it'll be pick 8, and we'll probably get, I've got a feeling it'll be accepted for a pick in the 30s. A pick in the 30s. Pick in the 30s.
So in that case, do we wait for Port Adelaide to do the deal with Fantasia? Because they've got pick 28. Dodoro mentioned today that pick 28 might become a mid-30s pick. So what if we gave pick 8 to Essendon, get Saad, and pick 35 back? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to. I mean, like you say, I don't like it, but I understand it. So for me, I'm backing the club on this one. I don't often do that. I think 8 needs to be done. I think the club have identified him. So I reckon by Friday it'll be 8 for a pick in the 30s. We get Saad. We keep our future. That's an important pick. And I think we move on with our lives.
Yep. No, it's a fair point. No, it's a very, very fair point. Did you take anything else away from what we heard today?
What, from Sauce?
Just in general.
I enjoy, honestly, controversial opinion. I love Adrian Dodoro. He is the most amusing human being on the planet for me, because it was like when they were it's like when he gets alluded to something that's ridiculous, you can tell he knows it's ridiculous, but it annoys people. He's like Kane Corns of list management. Like, he says the most ridiculous things, but I admire a guy that can say it with a straight face. Like, I couldn't go on national radio and say, Orazio Fantasia, absolutely poo bucket of a footballer. I want Xavier Dersma. I couldn't do it. So I admire that. Well done, Adrian.
Yeah, I obviously listened to Ned Guy today, the list manager for Collingwood, and if you listen to how Dodoro carries himself, and I know as Carlton supporters, we want to throw rocks at him, we want to throw fire at him, he's an idiot, he's this, he's that, but think about it. If he was your list manager, just making it difficult for everyone else, you're almost, you want him in your corner. You hate playing against him, but you love him playing with him. So there's a bit of that. I do respect the way he handles himself, because really they look stupid with all of these crazy requests, but he finds a way to just turn the conversation into one that makes sense. And you listen to Ned Guy today, they were grilling him about Treloar, and he just didn't really handle it very well. Speaking of Collingwood, I want to just add one little name in there as well, just for a bit of a teaser, maybe for the rest of the week. It sounds like Jaden Stevenson could be on the out. So, yes, no, is this something we should look into?
I mean, it came out today. Tom Brown says that he believes Treloar's been pandered around 600k. A second rounder is what they accept. He's also mentioned Jaden Stevenson. So obviously there's going to be a few little back pocket deals, I think, there. I think it's going to be a cut price deal. So I wouldn't be surprised, looking at what's happening at Collingwood, that's maybe why Nick Austin is looking at maybe paying a bit overs for Saad, knowing that you might be paying a bit unders for another player. So if we got our second rounder, say, got Jaden Stevenson, or a third rounder, got him, he'd maybe look at that as a success, thinking, okay, we might have paid overs here, but we got this guy for a bit of unders on the salary and also the trade. So it's going to be a really interesting time for me, really interesting time, because Stevenson's definitely someone we need. Small forward.
I do want to give a shout out to Tom Brown, because we spoke about it on Friday, I think it was. What would it take if Treloar, if we were going to pay 600, they were going to pay 300. I feel like Tom Brown's watching us, mate. So if you're out there, Tom, cheers, mate. Thanks for the credit.
I started calling you Pom Brown after almost word for word tweeting what I said yesterday. Great work, Tom.
Great work. We love your work, mate. Glad you could tune in. Excuse me. So, yes to Stevenson is what I'm seeing here for the most part. And are we still on the no train for Treloar? No Treloar, even if it was 600k?
It's getting better, isn't it? Because I said if you can haggle them down to 500 in a second, let's get it done. It's almost in that happy space. Chip on, what's 100k, eh? What's 100k? It'd be an intriguing one. It'd be an intriguing one. I think it's going to be a really exciting time, because I'm looking forward to seeing a bit more of Dodoro as well, because he makes such a fool of himself. I'm excited. It's so good to watch. Good TV.
Yeah, it is. And just on Treloar, it's just everyone's got their price, And if it's tell me a $600,000 player that can get you 25 a game and 4 or 5 score involvements a game, it's just tempting. I've got this reservation on him, but everyone's got a price, and I think my price is 600 a year.
Oh, mate! I mean, I think if we can get it down to 550 in a second rounder, I'm doing that, because, like you say, the rumours were Darcy Lang. It was matched of Geelong's deal. He signed 800k for 2 years, so that's 400k he was on in his last year at Geelong. They reckon we matched it for the first 2 years to get him over there. So 100,000 more for Treloar over Darcy Lang. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. And that is 30 minutes, guys. There is your daily recap. I know it's sad. We don't want to leave, but we must. Thanks for tuning in. that's what's happened. If you missed out, just go back and watch it. It won't take long. Go have a drink, settle down. In 15 minutes, I did a video with Lek Dog, and we went through exactly how we got here today with this 2015, starting with the 2015 rebuild, and how we got all those picks one by one. It was a fascinating video to do. Lek Dog did some unbelievable research for a number of weeks, and he put it all together, and he literally tracks every single player and where they came from and which deal, and it's a must watch. So we'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pom, see you tomorrow. Actually, no, I'll see you at 7:45. Go the Mighty Blues.